Welcome to another episode of Disruptive Native. In this week's episode, we tackle quite a serious issue about ethics involving columns, opinion pieces, and first-person narratives. Now, it's no secret that all of these relate to the ethical lapses by investigative journalist and celebrated author Jacques Pauw. So, to help me talk through these issues and how we can find lessons in this for young journalists and content creators is a former colleague and the former editor of The Star, Kevin Ritchie. Now, we must be familiar with the story by now. Jacques Pauw had been arrested and he proceeded to have a column published in the Daily Maverick talking about his arrest and how the police had a very heavy-handed approach to how he couldn't pay his bill at a restaurant at the V&A waterfront and how his credit card bounced. Days later, he issued an apology and a correction, which then showed that it was a complete fabrication. The only things that were consistent and turned out to be true was A, that his credit card bounced, and B, that he had been arrested. Now, here to help me navigate this, as I mentioned before, is Kevin Ritchie. Now, Kevin, can you please make the distinction for us between what an opinion piece is and what a first-person narrative is, and is there a difference?
Yes, you can make a distinction between a first-person piece and an opinion piece. A first-person piece is a bystander's account of something that went on. So you're not, normally in a news piece, you'd be asking people from either sides to explain in their own words what went on, and then you would get other accounts too to create a full news story. It's still a news story. An opinion piece is one person's opinions about a news piece. In this case, we have something that starts off as an opinion piece, but then starts giving facts that haven't been tested at all, but then gives the reader the perception that by introducing the law expert, constitutional law expert Pierre de Vos, then creates this idea of making those facts stronger.
Now, what are the rules for publications when they accept an opinion piece or a column from a contributor as far as their legal obligations stand in terms of publishing it?
As we were saying earlier, opinions are free. Facts are sacred, opinions are free. C.P. Snow said that at the Manchester Guardian about 150 years ago. So for a newspaper or publication that accepts an opinion piece, there's not much you can do as long as it doesn't go beyond as long as it doesn't incite racial hatred, as long as it doesn't go against the tenets of the Constitution, because we have the freedom of expression. But of course, this is not what happened here. It does incite hatred. It does play to prejudice. But the most important thing is that it's not based on facts. These are the writer's own facts, which he's now opining on. And the other bigger problem is, of course, that he had immediate access to the website to put this forward, and it was indeed published.
Now, Kevin, how should individuals and publications respond when they've had wrongdoing on their part? How should they go about an apology, and why is this so important?
To give credit where credit's due, I think the Daily Maverick has done an exceptional piece of work in terms of managing this crisis and being totally upfront and totally transparent about what's happened in a very, very quick way. So when the piece came up, they did put some caveats in when the article was published. Thereafter, immediately after Jacques Pauw wrote his retraction, they published it and they further added to it. And then by Wednesday afternoon, not only had the piece been taken down, which I think is the correct way, because there's no point in further spreading a mistruth, take it down. They've taken it down, and the publisher and owner has explained exactly what went on, and indeed has banned Pauw from ever working for them again.
Now, after such a lapse, how does a publication go about tightening up its checks and balances and the way It improves the rigors for testing pieces that it receives from contributors.
The question how it tightens up its processes is the same question that every single media outlet should be asking. If in doubt, leave it out. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Be skeptical, not cynical. Ask the author of the piece. Nobody is too good. Everybody can be edited, and everybody should be edited, and everybody should be queried. And that's what everybody's got to do. It's a salutary lesson, I think, for the entire media industry.
And finally, Kevin, what advice or tips can young journalists or content creators draw?
The lessons are very simple, and they apply to everybody who has access to the media, whether they're young journalists, whether they are has-beens like myself, columnists, commentators, whatever. We are citizens first and foremost. The press guide says first do no harm, and that's the key thing. None of us are the story. The key mistake here was that Jacques Pauw became his own story. He's not guilty. He's not the only one that's guilty. It's happening all around us all the time. We're living in the time of the millennial culture, but there's a hell of a lot of silver surfers and older journalists who should know better, with everybody else being totally seduced by the narcissism of putting yourself in the story. Don't. Being a journalist is a wonderful, wonderful privilege. Having access to write columns and opinions is an incredible privilege. Let's be conscious of that, and let's not put ourselves in the story. We're not part of the story. We're there to tell stories, to allow hopefully help other people to understand.
Thank you, Kevin. For the rest of us, we can read Kevin's take on this in tomorrow's copy of the Saturday Star, where he's written a column about the ethical lapse by journalist Jacques Pauw. For more content like this, visit loudhousemedia.co.za. I'm Gesante Bade.